Okay. Yeah.
Welcome to Shifting from Grudge to Grit, Grace, and Gratitude. And I am absolutely happy to have Kendra Glasgow or Glasgow. You need to tell me if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
So the first pronunciation was actually correct. So great job.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, yes, Jamila, our co-host, will join now. I just want to press live on our Instagram side. Hopefully, we will not have any challenges. It looks like we are live there as well. And then I'd love to just introduce our topic for today, as well as the bio from Kendra. So, our topic is really about finding freedom after loneliness. Yeah, that is a big topic, darling. So I'm looking forward to that discussion. Kendra Glasgow is a relationship coach who blends hard-earned personal lessons from both marriage and divorce with over a decade of professional experience in mental health and public health, with a deep belief that now more than ever, society must prioritize building stronger relationship skills. This guest is on a mission to help individuals and couples transform challenges into stepping stones for deeper communication, connection, and intimacy. So, if you are here or popping in or watching the replay, really, this is for anyone that's found themselves lost, trying to find love. Oh gosh, I might be one of those, and is ready to come home to you. So, without further ado, I mean, we want to ask this question around what happens when the person you feel most disconnected from is the one you actually share your life with. That for me was pretty thought provoking because I want you to tell us, where did that come from, and is it that we match with people that we think is our type, but they're not necessarily our vibrational match? Or is it that we connect with somebody initially, and that may have been a trauma bond when we're both in our wounded states, and then eventually the one person does the work and can no longer stay in that low energy vibration? So please, Kendra, just take us out of our misery to understand all of this and why you embarked on this journey, because it's not an easy one.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I would say it's probably all of the above. Um,
Mhm.
in my situation, I actually ended up marrying my father. Like he was very much like my dad. And I think sometimes we think familiarity is the best option. Um, but I also think there's something to say about the lack of relationship education when it comes to our society and culture. We're kind of just kind of sold like, the goal is to get married and like that's the hard part, right? It's just getting married, finding that partner, and in actuality, there's it's just like so much more than that. And I think that in my case, I was kind of just going through the motions, trying to check that checklist off when it comes to like living the right path. I'm like the firstborn of Jamaican immigrants, so I'm also like a first generation American. So there was always like a lot of pressure to really make like really like have our parents feel like they made the sacrifices for the for the right reason. And I think it took me experiencing loneliness after I felt like I did everything right to realize like I wasn't even really living life on my own terms. I didn't even really understand like what I wanted out of life. So I'm grateful for the experience, but it was mind blowing to me to feel like I had done everything right. I felt like I married the right person, but I was feeling so empty and so lost and so isolated, even though and from the outside, it seemed like I was on the right track.
Welcome, Jamila. Good to have you.
Thank you. Hi, Anissa. Hi, Kendra. How are you?
I'm good.
Uh, Happy Friday to all our listeners, our audience. Apologies for me being late, but it is a Friday afternoon. It becomes more challenging as the year is closing. But very happy to have you on and can't wait to hear more about your story.
So just to fill you in, Jamila, I mean, I absolutely was so like enthused to know more about this topic because the opening question, as you know, what happens when the person you feel most disconnected from is the one you share your life with? And I found that to be quite thought-provoking. And I asked her, like, where does this come from? But just to come back to what you have shared, Kendra, you are right. We tend to marry what we see is as familiar. So somebody told me many years ago, we tend to choose our partner that either resembles your mother or your father or a combination of the two. And again, it's not necessarily the wrong thing, but it can become the wrong thing if the relationship wasn't a healthy one or an optimal modeling of what relationships should be. So I don't know if you are keen to share your story in terms of why, like the specifics, the detail. And I mentioned earlier on, Jamila, that sometimes we connect with partners because there's a trauma bond and you're both kind of on this healing journey and you kind of make that match because you're giving each other what you need in that moment until one heals that trauma bond and there's no more resonance. So I'm really keen to kind of unpack where Kendra's was, besides modeling or kind of seeing that that is the image of her dad that she ended up marrying.
Yeah, I think that so I met my ex-husband when I was about 25 years old. So I didn't really know myself. And so, we actually didn't end up getting married until I think I was about like 30 when I actually got married. And I feel like the marriage was when I actually started to figure myself out. And as I figured myself out, I did notice more of a disconnect, right, with my ex-husband. Um, I was, I was I became more independent. I wanted to do things that were more like spiritual and maybe woo woo, um, for lack of a better term. And I did notice there being more of a distance and more of um, and just I think before too, like I was very much like a people pleaser. Didn't really want to rock the boat. Um, I held a lot more stuff in, so I also was just like more assertive and more vocal about like what my wants and needs were. And I don't, I think that's when we kind of became more misaligned and yeah, very much mismatched when it came to energy level. I remember him like rolling his eyes like when I was like when he saw me like meditating one day. So yeah, I think as I became more me, it the relationship became more something that like I didn't know if it had a if it had the lifetime that I was originally thinking, and that was so scary. So I think, I mean, it took a long time before I could even bring myself to think about divorce, because no one signs up for marriage thinking that it would end. I remember actually getting upset with like because I would go to individual therapy, and she asked like, have you ever considered a divorce? And I was furious because no, I hadn't. So it took some time to get there. But I think the shift happened as I became more of my own person, and kind of realizing that, like, when I chose my ex-husband, I wasn't fully myself. I was a people pleaser. I was living a life in accordance to, like, either what society or my parents had prescribed. Um, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I guess that, when you're going through this here, it's almost as someone, you feel like it's somebody who's comfortable because of the experience that you've had or the relations that you had in the past. It may not necessarily be the right one, but it feels familiar.
Yeah.
So familiarity gives you that comfort, even
Mhm.
though it's not what you need for yourself, even though it's not something that's healthy for you. But I think we tend to justify it and we make it palatable whilst we're in that stage where we haven't really truly found ourselves as yet. And as you've mentioned, and this comes, I mean, it was the same thing for me when I was around about 35, 33. Yeah, I that was my moment of realizing that I needed to do something. I needed to make a change because I was beginning to understand who I was and what I needed for myself. And not just, I mean, I know that it might sound a little bit selfish, but if you are not the best you that you can be, there's no way that you can be a good partner to anyone. There's no way that you can be a good parent to your child. So unless you take care of you first and become that solid, secure person who is working on herself and knowing who she truly is and going out there and getting what she wants, you are of no benefit to anyone else.
Agreed. Yeah.
Anissa, has that been your experience as well?
Spot on, and that is why I've been single for 4 years because you have to first just be happy with yourself. And I haven't been single because I didn't want to pursue anyone, but that sentiment of loneliness, I don't know if I agree completely, Kendra, because if you have loneliness, it means you haven't learned to be okay with yourself and love yourself enough that it's okay not to be with anyone, that you can fill your own vessel and you can enjoy the quietness or the alone time. And because I look forward to being alone. Maybe it's because I have 3 kids and I'm busy all the time running a business, and there may just not be space or time. But I want to come back to why we said in the caption, finding a partner after loneliness. Now, for you, Kendra, you were an immigrant, so it was adjusting to a new place, culture, so there was a lot of change that you needed to adapt. So that in and of itself can feel quite isolating. Now, after having a partner, you end up divorced, your life changes. So again, another feeling of isolation, which can be perceived as loneliness. But was it really loneliness? Because when you've discovered you and you finally love doing the meditation and all the things that makes you happy, have you still kept to the word as lonely, or is there a reframe that happened along the way?
Okay. Just want to clarify one thing. My parents were immigrants. I was born in the U.S. So just wanted to
Okay,
clarify that. Um,
thank you.
no worries. I would say that it. So I think the marriage was just a container for me to realize that I was experiencing loneliness because I didn't have a connection with myself. So I think I think the fact that, like, I realized that, like, you can be partnered and lonely, you can be single and lonely. The common denominator is not having a relationship with yourself. So I realized that I didn't have a connection with myself. I didn't, like, I was before just kind of my ex-husband was more of like almost like a distraction. Like I could blame it on him, right? Initially, when I didn't realize that it was more about me not being connected to myself. I was like, he's making me feel insecure. He's not doing enough. He's not doing this. But I realized, like being in community, like working with a therapist, working with a coach, I didn't even know what I wanted or needed. So how was a partner supposed to know? So I think, I would have realized it if I had been single too, but maybe the marriage kind of escalated me realizing that like, I don't know myself. I don't know how to take care of myself. I don't know what I like. I've been kind of just, I wasn't awake to what Kendra is or wants to be. So I think that I don't think it was like the marriage that like created the loneliness. It was more so like I didn't know myself, and I discovered myself in the marriage. And as I reconnected with myself, I kind of realized that this is not the life that is aligned with me. But I didn't know it at the time because I didn't know myself. So I think that as I got to know myself, like that's when I was able to like develop self-love and self-trust and actually be able to think about like I can survive. Like I mean, obviously, no one wants to go through a divorce, but like I can survive this. Like, and then
Yes.
that led to other changes, like like I want to start my own business. Like I want to take more risks. Like I think that like as I made one hard decision, I was able to make another hard decision because I was being able to trust myself more, and I didn't have that before the marriage and like experiencing loneliness. Like I didn't have like self-trust. I was trusting in everybody else's opinion.
That's beautiful because I can relate to what she's saying, Jamila, that even if you're in a relationship, you can still feel lonely. And I
100%.
felt that. But in
Yes.
that discovery of that loneliness, it was exactly what you've just described. I didn't know myself. And so I projected. He wasn't able to be taking initiative and take us on holidays. I took the lead to do that. Meanwhile, that was just the kind of the masking of it. But really, I think, I mean, Jamila, from your side, did you resonate with that?
Yeah, I do resonate with it. I think for sure you can be in a relationship and feel, excuse me, and feel extremely lonely. And it's we all have our own speed at which we are traveling along this journey of self discovery and self awareness, right? And consciousness. And by no means are we saying that, we're better than anyone else, because we're all on that journey, just different stages of the journey. And sometimes when you have a partner who isn't on that same journey as you, or who isn't at that same level of awareness, that brings in the loneliness. And especially when it's you've married into a family who has a specific type of lifestyle, thought processes. Something new or something different like this here isn't necessarily very warmly welcomed. And so you find yourself trying to hide it, okay, because you don't fit in. You don't fit in, and you can't talk to anybody about it because they just don't relate. And for me, that's where I found the loneliness, is that I had no one to talk to. And I was still on my journey, so I was trying to learn more about myself. And yes, we don't know exactly what we want. We don't know exactly who we are. um yeah, I think in that journey of trying to understand who we are, we find ourselves, and that gives you that comfort of, even though you're alone, you're not lonely. But by all means, yes, you can be in that relationship and be the loneliest that you've ever been, because you cannot connect, you cannot relate. So, and not by any means any one or the other's fault. It's just where you are in your space during this journey, trying to find that destination to self.
Exactly. Yeah, I think your partner's response is gives you a lot of like data, right? Like if me going on this self discovery journey like was met with more curiosity, like maybe I would still be married to this day, because I don't think that it has to be the exact same pace. I think it just shouldn't be something that like the other person is like kind of wanting to combat against, because it's just too distressing to them. um
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you might find yourself in a relationship where you're not fully healed yet. And for me, I mean, a lot of people say, don't get into another relationship unless you are truly healed yourself. We never, ever truly healed. It's a continuous journey that it's about finding that person who is open and receptive to you and your path and your journey or quest for finding out exactly who you are or finding that better version of yourself.
I love what you said there, Jamila, because I've got a friend, and she always says that if she needs to meet somebody, she tells them, "Show me your dark side, because I want to see your dark side. Because if I can know and accept your dark side, and vice versa, then we would gel, because we know that there is an understanding and respect that it's not a destination, that we continuously going to journey together, and that the
Yeah,
triggers will be there, because we are both light and dark, and so we will get triggered."
exactly.
You
And
want to
it's
say
about,
something, Jamila?
I say it's about understanding and taking responsibility or acknowledgement of the
Mm,
fact that you yourself have a dark side too. It's
of
not just
course.
about asking for the other person, but only once you come to that realization, that acceptance, and the non judgment that I too have my darker side, then only can I be with someone without um, offering judgment
Yes.
towards that.
Kendra, I want to ask you on the judgment comment there, because just, I think it was yesterday, I had a friend here, and some divorces can be amicable and others can be extremely toxic. And unless you've done your work, your judgment lens will come up, and the resentment and the anger and the disappointment and the pointing of fingers can still happen. So I want to come back to your personal experience, if we may go there. How was your departing of that relationship? Was it conscious, given that you had been doing the work consciously on yourself? Or was it still from an unconscious, judgmental, egoic place with a lot of pain and trauma? And yes, we're still going to feel pain, even if we're conscious. Don't get me wrong, for those that are listening in. But when we can walk away respectfully and amicably, that's always the better option. And more so when there are kids involved. Now, Kendra, I don't know if you've got any children or had any kids with your partner, but I'm keen to know, what was your approach, and was it difficult? Was it in the depths of the dark nights of the soul, where you were in the abyss of it all and it was a complete fight, or was it calm?
Oh my God. What a great question. I would say it's hard, because I think, of course, I wanted it to be as conscious as possible, but I think that me kind of being able to take my time, I had to give a lot of grace, because I've been able to like think about this and process this like a lot longer than my ex-husband at the time. He felt blindsided, and I was so surprised that he felt blindsided, just because when we would have arguments, he would throw out the divorce. Like, he would like kind of threaten divorce. And so like, I think I learned a lot about human emotion, and how when people say things out of emotion, like they really don't mean it. So I was, I was kind of surprised and like, and sad about like the fact that he felt blindsided. So I think my biggest thing was like kind of like dealing with the guilt of that, and maybe appeasing him a little bit too much. I think I definitely let him like take the lead in terms of like the pace, in terms of like, me moving out, and when we actually like filed legally, because of that, like, guilt and people pleasing. But at the same time, I think that I like owed him that grace, because I did have a lot more time to like process like us separating, and kind of like going through that grief, and he's going through it like in real time. I think it was fairly amicable, because we didn't have children. We had a dog together, and I actually like let him keep the dog. I do miss the dog, but yeah, I think it could have been a lot more messy, and I think that I I had to take accountability in terms of like, my role and why we didn't work out. So it really resonated when you talked about like the dark and the light, because for a big chunk, while I was married, I had a lot of blame towards him. Like I felt like I was doing everything to make the marriage work, and he was just, just there doing whatever he wanted. So I really had to, take accountability and do a lot of self-reflection while still having self-compassion for myself. So I wouldn't say like it was like I talked to this one divorce attorney, and he said that the couple like signed the papers and they walked hand in hand together out of the courtroom. It wasn't like that for us, but like it definitely wasn't as like chaotic as I've heard that they can be. I think it was more just like me trying to show as much grace as possible, while also advocating for myself as well.
Jeez. Wow. You have to have really learned a lot about yourself and forgiven yourself for a lot to be able to come to this point where you can actually acknowledge that, I need to take accountability for my part in this. And it works hand in hand, right? There's always two people in a relationship. So blame, if you want to call it that, you both have to take accountability for that. But tell me, you said that he brought up the topic of divorce.
Yes.
And not, right? Do you believe that women in particular are socially conditioned to prioritize harmony over authenticity? And how do we start unlearning this? Where do we start teaching young women this? Because it's so important for us to progress. I mean, I've gone through this like 20 years ago. And Anissa, how long have you been divorced?
It was 4 years on the 9th of October.
Wow. And Kendra, for you?
It's been 2 years.
Okay, so 20 years, 4 years, 2 years. How do we change this? How do we start unlearning, and how do we start educating our younger girls to accept their authenticity over just people pleasing and making sure that there's harmony for everyone else except for themselves?
Yeah, I think it starts with us recognizing that we have choices in terms of our life. Like I think we kind of grew up thinking like we have to get married, we have to have kids, we have to do this, we have to do that. And actuality, that's not the case. And I think that when we feel like, when we do things and it's more like a checklist than a conscious decision, we make a lot of like bad decisions. And we feel like we're kind of on like a time crunch. I think that we should put a lot more focus on learning about ourselves and learning about like exploring like what we would like. My ex-husband was actually my first boyfriend. I wasn't encouraged to date to explore. Like it was always you're gonna date to marry, and so that's totally different than like saying like you should date with curiosity so that you can find out like what you actually value in a relationship. Do you actually want a relationship? Like I was listening to a podcast about like how like some women are like kind of identifying themselves as like single by nature, like that's just where they find themselves vibrating the highest. And you would never probably hear that sort of phenomenon like years ago, so just kind of like I guess decentering these things like marriage and kids from our identity, and learning that these are all conscious decisions. Like it shouldn't be an automatic expectation that's like kind of put on us. And I know some of that is like unconscious programming, but yeah.
Yeah. I think also, like when I was going through this, there was nobody that I could speak to about it. And that's
Mm.
why these platforms are so important and integral in that unlearning process. Because if people have someone available um, to listen to what they're going through, or to listen to their stories and relate their lessons learned from it, I think it would be a lot easier to change that narrative and to allow, I mean, especially young girls. I mean, when I got married, I didn't know anything about marriage, let alone myself, right? And there was no one there to educate me. There was no one there that I could just talk to about my real issues or my day-to-day experiences that I was going through. And as a result, that's when you prioritize harmony over authenticity, because there is no support structure. And I feel that I mean, for many years, I never spoke about my experience and until recently. And I see the difference that it's making, because I see people who are going through the same experience that I had are reaching out. And Anissa, we've spoken about this so many times that even like creating this platform is to a certain extent has some bit of selfishness attached to it, because we're benefiting from it. But I don't think we understand or realize the impact that it is having on so many other people, because
Yeah,
they can, in their anonymity as well, learn from this
for
and
sure.
understand their experience better. So I
Mm.
think that's why it's so important for us to share our stories, whether we find them to be embarrassing, whether we feel insecure about it or fearful of what people may think about us. We are not the only ones that are experiencing this, and only by sharing it can we help others.
So there's two things that, I mean, that Kendra said that I was chuckling like by myself, but I'm going to share it now with you. Firstly, the dating with curiosity is brilliant, because
Yeah.
if you date with curiosity and you start to almost have that behavior and approach within the relationship when you're dating, you will remain curious when you finally choose that partner, because curiosity is like, for me, a superpower. If you're curious, you're not in judgment, right? You're really curious. You're not passing blame or projecting in any shape or form. Then the other thing that you mentioned was single by nature. So that kind of triggered something for me, Kendra. I don't know if you've seen on Instagram, there was this thing that somebody posted about hiring their kin. I don't know if it was China or Japan or Tokyo. I know it was one of the Asian countries, and single women that choose to stay single by nature are hiring younger kin type guys that come and cook for them,
Oh my
clean for them,
gosh.
keep them company. And then the funny thing was at the end of the video, it said, and some woman decides that they want multiple Kens in their lives. And I thought to myself, wow, that sounds like an interesting. And I don't know if it's back in the day, they would call it older women would love to be with younger guys. It's the cougar type approach, but now they're calling it Ken. So I don't know where things are heading, and I don't think, or I thought it was so funny, Jamila. I
I
mean,
think it's so
I
funny.
wish I'd actually saved it and sent it to you, Jamila, because I could not stop laughing and was like, really? Is this where we're heading? It's that for me, it's like the opposite of, hey, I'm gonna find a sugar daddy or a sugar mommy. And now it's like, okay, let's go find the younger ones. And I know there's another term in South Africa that we use calling it a Ben 10. So I don't know, Kendra, if you're familiar with the cartoon
No.
Ben 10. There's an old cartoon that was called Ben 10. But the funny thing is, now if you're an older woman with a younger guy, it's actually called a Ben 10. And
Yeah, not a
it's just
Ken.
bizarre. Hey?
Oh my gosh.
Not a Ken, a Ben 10. That's a South
Yes.
African interpretation.
So there's all these things going. So I must be honest. For me, I am not judging anyone that has their kins in the world. But I don't think that I could pursue something like that. I mean, what are your ladies' thoughts on this? I know we're digressing, but it was the single by nature comment that you made that kind of triggered that for me. What are your thoughts on this, ladies?
Look, it's becoming a trend actually nowadays.
Is it in South Africa too?
Absolutely, it is a trend. I mean, where younger guys feel that they connect and relate better to an older woman. And the other way around as well, like we've known. However,
Mhm.
with women, with the younger women, they feel that um, it's just more comfortable having a relationship with an older man because they are so much more um, mature in the way that they think. They're already accomplished in their lives, so they don't have to go through. And like you say, Anissa, I mean, I'm not here to judge anyone. Whatever whatever works for you works for you. But what I do want to point out is that you have the younger generation are a lot more in tune with self-awareness and self-actualization and confidence, self-confidence than we think, as well as being very much in tune with their own spirituality. And I'm not putting a blanket on it, but I
Yeah,
found that this has truly been the case. And so maybe that's the reason why you're finding the connection now between the two different age groups. I don't know. I'll let you know when I try it. If I try.
I was going to ask you, Jamila. So, if you find one of the men that you're describing, would you pursue a relationship?
Look, for me, I think I've just been brought up in that generation where the man is older than the woman. But however, if it's a few years here or there, I don't know,
Yes.
maybe that wouldn't really make any difference. But when you're talking decades younger, then for me,
No.
it just doesn't seem to be something that I would want to do or I'd be attracted to do. On top of it, it would, I mean, I have a son who's 27, for heaven's sake.
But
So,
Kendra, just so you know, that Jamila is the most youthful looking 53 years or version 5.3 young person. Don't you
thank,
agree with me?
I do. I do.
thank you. At
Kendra,
least
over to you. Over
Yeah.
3
to
years
you.
mileage nonetheless. So, an indoctrination when it comes to, yes, the man should be older than the woman and all that kind of a thing. So, I guess I'm stuck in that. But you know what? No judgment for those who
Who
it
do?
works for. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tracy Ellis Ross. She's Diana Ross's daughter, but she
Tracy.
has become known because I believe she's in her 50s and she's just been single for a
Oh,
long
yes, yes,
time.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And she was saying that she has a lot of difficulty dating men her age because, they're like more traditional and she wants to be like out and about, traveling. And so she just found that she's connected
Wow.
better with younger men because of like kind of the pace of life that she wants to
Yeah.
be living. So I think it can make sense. Like like you got to meet yourself where you are,
Yes. I'm
So
looking at her now. I mean,
You
she's
certainly
looking
recognize her.
fabulous. She's looking hot. Have you seen her?
She's an actress. You would recognize her from some past. She's a comedian also, isn't it?
Yeah, she's acted in quite a few movies as well.
Yes,
yeah,
and sitcoms and
she's
whatnot.
been in shows. I used to watch her in Girlfriends and
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, okay. So let's get back to the topic of today, but it was relevant nonetheless. So, Kendra, from your side, I mean, what else would you like to share with us in terms of this journey? We have but 18 minutes remaining for today. I mean, what is something that is important for you today that you want to convey this message and get across to our
Yeah.
audience?
Well, I think it's kind of picking back to what Jamila had said about the importance of sharing our stories. I would say that like community like was a big part of my journey. Like when I was trying to like do all this research about like what can help improve like emotional and physical intimacy in my marriage, I found a community, and it was mostly women, and basically we wanted to have more intimacy in our lives. But even though everybody's story was different, like we were connected in terms of like just wanting to, you know, express ourselves more, be more attuned with ourselves. And it was really empowering to know that I wasn't alone. Like, because it's I think there's a lot of shame with discussing relationship issues. Like, people always are quick to say if like, oh yay, we're celebrating our wedding anniversary, we're doing this and that. Like, but like we're like a little bit more private and quiet if there's like things are not going so well. So I have to mention how powerful community was, and that kind of motivated me to create like my own community. And it's like, yeah, it feels kind of selfish because I know that these women are benefiting from not feeling alone, but like it also is very like validating and reassuring to me that like there is nothing wrong with me. That this is like a universal experience. It's not because I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. Like there's a lot of people going through this and feel
Yeah.
supported
You,
by.
you know, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Jamila knows I have got my own little community, which initially the group was called the Sacred Sisters Group. And now, Jamila, you'll be pleased to hear that it's actually changed. And I'm doing a 40-day program called Soul Companion hyphen Ship. So who's really going to go on to this voyage with you? And
Mhm.
if you're at sea, you're going to have rough seas, you're going to have storms, but who's going to stand the test of time with you and say, I've got you? We're in this ship together. And it is so important because the storytelling and sharing our stories, we find ourselves in other people's stories. And that's
Mhm.
why, I mean, I'm sure Jamila and Kendra, for you as well, the work that we're all doing as coaches or facilitators of this work is to tell stories, because it's in there that the greatest healing become the catalyst. And if you can see others have gone through their darkness, and you kind of right there in that moment, it gives you such hope that not only are you not alone, but others overcame that, and that
Mhm.
it's okay to be in that darkness for that moment. And I feel that it's the catalyst for us, when we're having that community, that it accelerates our healing journeys than going to therapy and going for a session, and you have multiple sessions and it's one to one. And I'm not disregarding therapy, because the same lady who facilitates this program is a therapist. But what's been beautiful with her work is that she's found the sweet spot between Western psychology, and because we are Muslim, Islamic psychology, and blending it, because in Islamic psychology, it's really about being heart and soul centered, right? So it's very much connected to the spiritual realm than only let's go for therapy and let's understand the root cause and let's medicate you if you need medication. Whereas the community aspect says, well, you don't always need to go to get a tablet or medication for this. The medicine is in and of itself the community.
Mm.
I love that.
Mm. Jamila, I mean, you
Yeah,
find it too with Shift Happens.
absolutely. Anissa, I think, just having that community around you, and it doesn't have to be a huge, big community, right?
Mm,
Um, I
mm,
mean, these weekly sessions that we have is so soul fulfilling for me. I might be going through the worst week whatsoever, and then I come here and I listen to our guest stories and I listen to Anissa, and at the end of the hour, I'm already feeling in heightened spirits. I'm feeling so much better about it. So it's not about quantity. If you have a few special people around you who are there to help you, um, I can't stress how important that is, because like you said, we tend to hide the embarrassing stuff. We tend to hide the things that are negative, because we feel embarrassed about it. So we don't want to share it. And that what happens then is that you end up sitting with this and it festers within you. But the minute that you have someone to speak about, and that when that person is there just to sit with you and to hold that space for you without any judgment, and it just allows you to speak about it, or even if you're not speaking about it, just knowing that there's someone there who's holding your hand throughout it all, whether you feel like you're to blame, whether you feel that you're selfish, however you're feeling about yourself, is all it's one step forward, one mighty step forward in building not only a better life for yourself, but building who you are, a stronger person within yourself.
Any golden nuggets, Kendra, that you can share with our audience when you were in that abyss of it all? What were some of the actual practices or interventions, or did you have community back then, or did you find yourself isolating because of the shame? But what exactly did you find to support you on, not feeling as lonely, or making it a little bit, to ease that loneliness, if I can call it that?
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say community played a big part, but it's interesting because like, the community was, it started off as complete strangers, but in having that community, I felt like now I'm more able to be more transparent and open with my like close friends, where as before I would kind of, be like most people and just want to share the good things, so I feel like it helped me to be able to speak my truth in multiple groups. I would also say like journaling like was a big thing. And like I look at my like pastoral entries even now just to kind of be able to see the progress and like, yeah, kind of like um it kind of like is like proof, like literal proof that you have come this far. So yeah, I would say like being in community, like challenging myself to like be more honest, be more open, even when things aren't going great. And journaling were huge parts of my journey.
Have you taken the journal to think about it? Our guest last week, that was another powerhouse. First, we thought she had 18 books. She's got 26 books. And the journal is what
Yeah,
triggered that for me.
yeah.
So, do you have sufficient journals that you can convert it to a book? I think we must get you in touch with that lady too, because really, I was so in awe, and I was like, I felt even inspired to continue journaling now because I couldn't connect with journaling for actually quite a long time. I write post on LinkedIn and I repurpose it everywhere,
Yeah.
but that's kind of my form of expression and letting it out there. And I don't care if it's public and raw and vulnerable, but I stopped the actual more intimate journaling. And I don't know what was the reason, but I'm like this rebel. Don't tell me you must wake up in the morning, do meditation, do breath work, journal it out, and then I'm going to become rebellious. So if I want to go to the ocean and that's my form of meditation, then so be it.
Yeah.
But like what else that is unique to you, Kendra, have you also tried that maybe nobody really knows about as a technique or a practice that you apply?
Hmm. Well, I think maybe for me, like I guess being like curious about different self discovery tools, like it started with. Are you guys familiar with the Enneagram?
Yes,
Okay,
love
so
it.
it started off with that, and actually, I got when I was still like working a 9 to 5. I actually got to go to a training, and I got really into it, and I discovered that I was a 4. So like I'm really comfortable with darkness, and I'm very emotional and sensitive, and like all that like track. But also that helped me. Also have more of an understanding of my ex-husband, because even though like I don't think I ever got him to take a quiz, I could kind of figure out, and so that helped me be like more compassionate with him, having that understanding. And then I got more into like astrology. I got into human design. So I think just being curious about all these different self-discovery tools and not like completely writing them off because like maybe it's not backed by enough research, like just being open to different tools. And I think has like also been a big part of my self-discovery journal, and like taking what's useful, and applying it to my life.
Mm, that's
Jamila's
lovely.
going to love what you said now.
No, that's really wonderful. There's always something else that you can learn, and always something else that's going to give value to who you are and how you show up. Anissa, for me, I've found that journaling, I love it, as you know, I mean, for years, I love to journal, but I do find those times when I'm not connected, and I'll feel like a week will go by or whatever it is, and I haven't sat down, and I like to sit down and write in my journal, and rather as opposed to typing or a voice note or whatever it is. And that really does help me to connect, and just going through the journal helps me to see how far I've come. But one thing that I've been consciously doing recently is that I've been aware of the words that we speak
Mm.
and the things that we declare. And in as much as I say that, it's so good to have someone there to whom you can let out all of your frustrations and speak about everything that you are so unhappy about, I found that that has had the opposite effect for me. So what I do now is I speak positive and I speak in gratitude of everything that I have, as opposed, even if I'm having a terrible day, I look for the thing that I am blessed with. And there are so many when you look for it, right? Otherwise, we take it for granted. And it's so much easier for you to vent and to speak about everything that you are unhappy with, especially when you're catching up with your girlfriends or whatever. It's so easy just to get into that rut of speaking negativity. And I found that if I'm conscious and aware enough, and I deliberately speak about what I'm blessed about, it changes my entire demeanor. It changes how I feel about life. It changes how I feel about myself. And this is something that's scientifically proven as well. Okay, because um, when you start to speak negativity, your body already starts to produce the cortisol and puts you into that state of trauma, even if you're not experiencing it. Or if you're bringing something up about the past, it puts you in that state again where you feel that you are experiencing it, which is negative effect on you. So for me, I've found that by deliberately and being aware of choosing what I declare and what I put out there has a tremendous positive effect um, on my growth, on my personal growth.
Very powerful. Kendra, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I concur, but I want to hear Kendra's perspective, and I'll come in and share what I want to share.
Yeah, no, yeah, gratitude is so important. And it made me think about how, because of that, like I've actually had to set boundaries with some people because that's all they want to do is like, gossip and speak negatively. And I can sense the impact that will have on the rest of the day. You're just like, kind of in that heaviness. So I think, yeah, like I have more awareness, and also have had to have more boundaries with certain people that kind of just want to stay in that place. So that's been a big part of my healing journey as well.
This brings up, because this is very much around the work that I do. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head, both of you, because that the language we use sends those messages to the brain. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, the Greatness podcast. I think it's the School of Greatness.
Mm.
Can't come to his name, the basketball
Lewis,
player. What's
Lewis
his name
Howe.
again?
Yes, Lewis.
Yes, Lewis Howes, but he had Dr. Joe Dispenza on.
Oh,
And Dr. Joe was talking about how the thoughts really obviously is connected to these past experiences, right? And the body physiologically connects to the feeling. And so the emotional state will be the message that the body will give you. But the thoughts is really connected to that, the root cause, so to speak, of why you feel that way. And what's interesting, I mean, I know you both ladies know his work. I mean, Joe Dispenza is just phenomenal. I mean, he healed himself, and he's doing it for countless people. It's
Mm.
my wish list to go to one of these conferences. I don't know about the two of you, but the fact that he could prove that you can change neurologically your neural pathways by just living as if you are abundant, or you have experienced what you aspire to become, You have to become that version. And so he has another comment where he says, your personality becomes your personal reality. And until you change your personality, your reality ain't going to shift. And how profound is that, right? It's quite profound because, again, coming back to our topic around that loneliness, let's face it, we human beings, and as much as I'm saying, yes, I don't connect to that word loneliness because I'll find something to cherish the time with. We are social beings and we do need to connect at that level.
Yeah.
So we're going to want to have some form of stimulation as well. So for me, in closing, I don't know from your side, ladies, but this, as Jamila always says, every single week is so meaningful, and it is selfishly supporting our journey as well as it is to the audience out there. I want to say thank you to you, Kendra, because Kendra said at the beginning that before we went live, that she's used to normally being on a podcast that is quite, prepared, and you'll get questions prior. So let's ask you in closing, how did this go for you? And I normally never do this publicly, but I'm being bold today and asking you, did you experience this to be uncomfortable, or did you find value in today just flowing in the way that it has? Because I certainly enjoyed it from your contribution and Jamila's.
No, I really like this, like a lot more than I had initially thought. I think it not being like as like scripted and like having the preparation beforehand made it more of a natural like coffee chat conversation, and I feel like I got a lot more out of it. So
Mm.
thank you for yeah, giving me that opportunity,
And
because now
then
I
lastly, any last nugget that you want to leave the audience with?
yeah, just that it's not selfish to prioritize your relationship with yourself, and you actually will have better relationships with other people when you do that.
Yes, beautiful.
Love that.
Jamila, closing remarks from your side?
Yeah, I think, Anissa, it's just important for us to also understand that freedom doesn't normally come from leaving someone, but true freedom comes from when we finally meet who we are. Um,
Mm.
so I just
I
think
love that.
it's so important for us to make sure that we prioritize ourselves. We don't feel that it's selfish to have this relationship,
Mhm.
to work on ourselves, to put ourselves first, because that is how we achieve true freedom within ourselves.
Absolutely. I want to come back. One last thing you said earlier about being a 4 on your Enneagram. What was the other two numbers? What were your wings?
Um, there, goodness, I always go back and forth. I think I'm a five wing.
Okay. So I was on a webinar last week where I was on a panel, and one of the ladies, the doctors, was a specialist, and the 4s are the intense creatives, and the 5s are the specialists, those that need to observe. Jamila, did you do the assessment ever?
I haven't.
Okay. Well, I'm a 8 with a 7-2 wing. An 8, oh my word, I'm embarrassed to say it, but okay, is the boss, the controller who likes to be in control. So really like take the lead charge, with the 7, which is gregarious and likes to be visionary. And then the 2 is obviously people that are wanting to be of service to others, to humanity. So, I mean, for me, the reason why I brought that right at the end is, if you know yourself and you heal yourself continuously, you will better lead yourself. And I think the Enneagram is just but one tool. Jamila, if you can do it, it is
I
very,
will
very valuable.
I will definitely do it, and I put it out there for the two of you also to try the GC index, the Game Changer Index. That's also one that really, truly, um, defines who you are as a person.
Please share it and we'll do it. I don't mind doing it. I'm sure Kendra doesn't either.
Definitely, I'll share it with you guys.
On that note, we'll see everyone again next week, same time, maybe in different locations again. Kendra, it's been a pleasure. And we'll end the live, and then you can stay for a 1 minute debrief between ourselves alone. And then we'll see everyone next week. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.